Yes, Prabhu, you can start now.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa, Parivajikacharya Ashtotar, the Shri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, Parivajikacharya Ashtotar, the Shri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktabinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Glenn, can I just get a tiny little bit more? Thanks. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 27th day of April 2021 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine... Oh, wait a minute, let me try that again. Sorry about that. On this 27th day of April 2021 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in chapter 10, entitled The Opulence of the Absolute, text number 27, on page 447. Uchai Shavasam. I'm sorry, let's try it again. Uchai Shavasam. Ashvanam. Uchai Shavasam Ashvanam. Vidhimam. Amitod Bhavam. Vidhimam Amitod Bhavam. Airavatam. Gajendranam. Airavatam Gajendranam. Naranam. Chanaradipam. Naranam Chanaradipam. Uchai Shavasam Ashvanam. Viddimam Amitodbhavam. Airavatam Gajendranam. Naranam Chanaradipam. Uchai Shavasam Ashvanam. Vidhimam Amitodbhavam. Airavatam Gajendranam. Naranam Chanaradipam. Uchai Shavasam Ashvanam. Vidhimam Amitodbhavam. Airavatam Gajendranam. Naranam Chanaradipam. Uchai Shavasam Ashvanam. Vidhimam Amitodbhavam. Airavatam Gajendranam. Naranam Chanaradipam. Uchai Shavasam Ashvanam. Vidhimam Amitodbhavam. Airavatam Gajendranam. Chanaradipam. Uchai Shavasam Ashvanam. Vidhimam Amitodbhavam. Airavatam Gajendranam. Naranam Chanaradipam. Uchai Shavasam, Uchai Shava. Ashvanam, among horses. Vidhi, no. Mam, me. Amrita Udbhavam, produced from the churning of the ocean. Airavatam, Airavata. Gaja Indranam, of lordly elephants. Naranam, among human beings. Cha, and Nara Adipam, the king. Excuse me. Translation. Of horses, know me to be Uchai Shava, produced during the churning of the ocean for nectar. Of lordly elephants, I am Airavata, and among men, I am the monarch. Purport. The devotee demigods and the demons, asuras, once took part in churning the sea. From this churning, nectar and poison were produced, and Lord Shiva drank the poison. From the nectar were produced many entities, of which there was a horse named Uchchaishava. Another animal produced from the nectar was an elephant named Airavata. Because these two animals were produced from nectar, they have special significance, and they are representatives of Krishna. Amongst the human beings, the king is the representative of Krishna, because Krishna is the maintainer of the universe, and the kings who are appointed on account of their godly qualifications are maintainers of their kingdoms. Kings like Maharaj Yudhishthir, Maharaj Parikshit, and Lord Ram were all highly righteous kings who always thought of the citizens' welfare. In Vedic literature, the king is considered to be the representative of God. In this age, however, with the corruption of the principles of religion, monarchy decayed and is now finally abolished. It is to be understood that in the past, however, people were more happy under righteous kings. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Shri Parampara. Alex, can you help him with the book? Give me a book. Maybe just give me your book and take this book. I ran about 447? Okay. All right, good. Very good. There, we'll find it. Okay, so we have now categories of the horses, the elephants, and human beings. Okay. So this churning of the ocean was quite an event. The demigods and the demons called a truce, and they got together to churn the ocean. Ocean of milk, actually, if I recall, in order to get nectar. They thought by drinking the nectar, they'll become immortal, or pretty close to it. And so it was, first thing that happened is they have to get a churning rod, right? So that was Mount Mandara, huge mountain, solid gold, if I recall. And they said, well, let's lift it. We'll all lift it. And they lifted it up, and I couldn't hold it, and they came down, broke their arms and legs, So Krishna came. He had to keep helping him in all different steps of this. Put it on the back of Garuda and healed them up, and so took him to the ocean mill. So then they get into the ocean, and what's going to be the rope? Vasuki, the main Naga, he agreed to be the rope. So the demons said, oh, we don't want to be at the tail. That's not very honorable. We'll be at the head. When you demigods to be at the tail. So the demigods were smart. They said, okay. So they took the tail, and the demons took the head. But the Suki, he's kind of a dragon type. He was breathing fire, and the demigods were getting all full of soot and everything. So and finally they get churning, but there's nothing underneath it. The mountain starts falling into the ocean of milk. So Kurma comes, the turtle incarnation, and he serves as the pivot. And he also, there's this great verse at the very end of the Bhagavatam, 12th canto, 13th chapter, 55th verse. It says, when Kurma was, when they were churning the ocean, he had an itching sensation on his back and it was being scratched. And then he was breathing in and out, and that breathing in and out is blessing the whole universe. May you be blessed by the breathing of Kurma Avatar. Far out. And so finally they got, churning pretty good, and then different things started to come out. One of which was this horse. I forget what happened with the horse, but Airavata is famous. Airavata became Indra's elephant carrier. And we heard the story of Chitraketu and that whole battle with Vritrasura. So Indra's riding on his elephant, right? And this Airavata, he's got 4 tusks, not 2. And but he gets knocked back. I mean, he's very powerful. He's the biggest elephant in the world, But he gets knocked back, and Indra's put back. Finally, Indra conquers and kills Vritrasura. Here's an interesting fact: Airavata Gajendranam. Now, there's another elephant named Gajendra, right? So, what does Gajendra mean? Obviously, it's a category, the chief of the elephants. So it's kind of a generic name. Maybe he had a given name too. Who knows? Anyway, Airavata is the chief of all the elephants. And then Naranam Naradipam. This is an important point. Naradipa simply means those who rule the human beings. That's a king of human beings. Now, as Prabhupada points out, the kings used to be understood to be empowered by God, and they were known as Naradeva, meaning they took the role of God within society. That means they have to be very pious. They have to actually be forces for good and protect the people and be concerned about nourishment, just like we read about Prithu. Those have been around a while. We went through the fourth canon. Remember Prithu? So by the time he came around, they had Vena, who had been the king. His father left in disgust because his father Anga, his wife, had some line going back to the demons, and so some bad blood came into Vena. And he was incorrigible, couldn't be corrected. Even as a child, he would kill his playmates. And so finally, Anga just got up in the middle of the night and left, took sannyas. Now what? There's no king. And so all the dacoits and everyone says, oh, now's our chance, right? And so they started taking over and causing havoc in society. And so the Brahmin said, well, okay, Vena, maybe he'll, just like we had recently a certain president whose name will be unnamed, who they thought would grow into the position. Didn't happen. Didn't happen with Vena either. He remained Vena, and he started persecuting. All the dacoits went back into the background because they were scared. So that was good. But he started persecuting the Brahmins and saying, "I'm God," and all this and that. So the Brahmins get together, and they can do this in emergencies because the Kshatriyas are supposed to listen to the Brahmins and enforce the law, be dharmic, like Yudhishthir and Prithu and so many others. But the Brahmins were saying, no, you can't do this. And he's saying, no, you have to listen to me. So they killed him with their mantras. They can do that. So now what? Now again the dacoits came out. But so they had this way of churning the dead body of Vena. And the first one that came out was a little dwarf demon. He had all the sinful reactions. They exiled him. And then they did it again, and Prithu came out, who was like a Shaktivesh avatar, and his wife Archie. So they were. But by that time, the earth had become just like it is now. We call it climate change. Climate change means that before long, watch. I read about this. The price of all the food is going to start going up. You have the droughts, the shortage of water, the pollution, and all the wars and all kinds of stuff. So Earth had withheld her bounty because of Vena and all of this stuff. So Prithu had to discipline the earth, and said you have to start giving, producing grain and so on. He was known to be a good king. So the kings are very important. And this divine right of kings, I remember reading about that. How, this means the king can do no wrong, he's beyond the law. You can imagine when you get a demon in there, how he can abuse that position. So that's why Prabhupada said monarchy is abandoned. There's still a few monarchies around, like Saudi Arabia. But so Krishna, among men, I am the monarch, and that's understood to be not the demonic monarchs, but actual monarchs like Prithu and Yudhishthira, like that. All right, no questions. We'll go on. Now,
Hare
weapons.
Krishna, Prabhu.
Oh, Haribol, Dhanabai.
Hare Krishna, a nice class. Thank you. My question is, you said, Prabhu, from when Prithu Maharaj came, from his body, when?
Yeah. You didn't know that?
So even though go ahead. So my question is, even though he was not good king, Vena was not good, and then Prithu Maharaj was good, but how did it just good thing came from Vena's body?
Yeah. Well, first of all, he was dead, You know, the Brahmins knew this principle of like churning the thighs and everything. It's a whole, that's not described in detail, but it's not, we don't do it today. But the point is that all of the sins and everything, the bad aspects of Vena, went into this, I forgot his name now. But he was a dwarf, you know, bad, and he was exiled. So in other words, there was a good line. I mean, you had Anga there, and it was, you know, and so when Prithu came out, he had the empowerment of the Lord. You see, it was a certain principle. We'll have to text me or write me an email, and I'll give you the reference in the 4th canto. You can read about it. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Okay, so we're up to the weapons now. Ayudhanamaham vajram Denunam asmikamaduk Padanaschasmi kandarpa Sarpanam asmi vasukihi. Of weapons I am the thunderbolt. Among cows I am the surabhi. Of causes for procreation I am Kandarpa, the god of love. And of serpents I am Vasuki. Purport. The thunderbolt, indeed a mighty weapon, represents Krishna's power. In Krishna Loka, in the spiritual sky, there are cows which can be milked at any time, and they give as much milk as one likes. Of course, such cows do not exist in this material world, but there is mention of them in Krishna Loka. The Lord keeps many such cows, which are called surabhi. It is stated that the Lord is engaged in herding the surabhi cows. Kandarpa is the sex desire for presenting good sons. Therefore, Kandarpa is the representative of Krishna. Sometimes sex is engaged in only for sense gratification. Such sex does not represent Krishna. But sex for the generation of good children is called Kandarpa and represents Krishna. So Krishna famously says in the 7th chapter, Dharma varudho bhuteshu kamosmi bhadatarshaba. I am sex life that is not violating religious principles. So there's all kinds of restrictions for that. Otherwise, human society sinks down to the level of animals. When these 4 things that we're supposed to give up when we first come to Krishna consciousness, when they become prominent, meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling, when they become prominent in society, society becomes degraded very quickly. And that's what we see today. The only real countervailing force is this Krishna consciousness. And now Surabhi, there's a play on words. Let's see. Yeah. So this is an interesting verse in the Stavamala. Yak parirakshata sudabhi laksha tadabisa sudabhi mardana daksha muladi vadana kudadi shadi sadashata kushadam tabavanamali. It's a nice verse. So the first line says Yak parirakshata sudabhi laksha. Laksha is a famous lakh, 100,000. He's famous for herding many surabhi cows. Tadapi, but Tadapi Susudabhi Mardana Dakshi. He's also expert in killing the surabhis. What's that? It's a play on words. Sura B, if you break it there, the fear of the demigods or fear of the devotees. He also destroys the devotees' fear. Sudabhi. Tadapi Susudabhi Mardana. Mardana means to kill. Mardana Daksha. He's expert. Muladi Vadana holds the flute to his mouth. Interesting Sanskrit fact. There are 3 words, there's probably many more, but the 3 words that are famous, meaning face. Mukha, Vadana, and Anana. All 3 of those can also mean mouth. Because the mouth is the most important part of the face, that's where the words come from. And that's where you express so many emotions. Smiling, frowning, like that. Interesting fun fact. Let's see. Kandarpa, we did. Cows, I am the surabhi. And the thunderbolt. So this is the same bastion we was talking. There's Vasuki. He was the rope, right? For the churning. And Sarpa. Notice the similarity between the word serpent and Sarpa. There's a lot of that in Sanskrit. Indicating, water. forgot to get the water. This whole table wasn't here when I came. There's many words like that. Most famous of which is Nama. Can you guess what it means? Name, right? Now here's another really interesting word conjunction. This I think you may have heard already, some of you. I don't think you heard it. There's a word in Sanskrit called Amrita. In fact, we just had it, Amritodbhavam. Amrita means no death, deathlessness. When you drink nectar, you're supposed to become deathless. That's why they were churning the ocean to get that nectar to get. So, now the word nectar is you ever heard this before? Is the combination of two Greek words, neck and tar. Now tar is right from the Sanskrit, tarine. Every time we bow down, tarine, to deliver, right, to tar. And neck, necromancy, necrotic, pertaining to death, delivering you from death. The English word nectar means the same thing, exact thing as Amrita. You understand? Interesting, fun fact. Okay, text 29. Anantas chasmi naganam vaduno yadasamaham pitrinama yamachasmi yamak sangyamatamaham. Of the many hooded Nagas, I am Ananta, and among the aquatics, I am the demigod Varuna. Of departed ancestors, I am Aryama, and among the dispensers of law, I am Yama, the Lord of Death. Purport. Among the many hooded Naga serpents, Ananta is the greatest, as is the demigod Varuna among the aquatics. They both represent Krishna. There is also a planet of Pitas, ancestors, presided over by Aryama, who represents Krishna. There are many living entities who give punishment to the miscreants, and among them Yama is the chief. Yama is situated in a planet near this earthly planet. After death, those who are very sinful are taken there, and Yama arranges different kinds of punishments for them. Notice that there's Yama and Niyama, the two first steps of the Ashtanga Yoga. Yama is the don'ts, and Niyama is the do's. So the very word Yama is you've done a lot of things that you shouldn't have done, then you have to face Yama, Yamaraj. Notice there's many-headed serpents. Glenn, can you see if we need to close the door or something here? So there's many-headed serpents like the Nagas, and this is like Ananta Shesha Naga. This is also the bed of the Vishnus. I think we spoke about them yesterday. But then there's also the Sarpas. These are the regular serpents. They don't have many heads. Vasuki only has one. Otherwise, it would be kind of awkward for one of these many-hooded Nagas to serve as the rope. That wouldn't work. Doesn't compute. So these Nagas, they have their own planet. I remember I was working on the Mahabharata. At one point, the BBT was thinking of printing it. And so I think it was in the Adi Parva. And there's so much in the Mahabharata that is kind of a bit of a diversion, off the main plot. So here we have a whole chapter dedicated to describing the Nagas on their planet. And there were literally paragraphs of names of the chief Nagas on that planet. And I had to proofread all that, figure out. And I was thinking, this is why we generally don't have to read the Mahabharata, get the essence, the Bhagavad Gita. Okay. Text 30. Praladas chasmi daityanam kala kalayatamaham maganam chamagendroham painateyas tapakshinam. Now I'm going to read this translation, but I'm going to edit it because this isn't exactly what Prabhupada said. He didn't say, among the demons, I'm Prahlad. When you say among the demons, it's like among the devotees, I'm Alex. Or, you know what I mean? As soon as you say among the devotees, then Alex must be one of the devotees. So if you say among the demons, then Prahlad is a demon. No. He was born in a Daitya family, but he's not a demon. And Prabhupada didn't say that. So among the descendants of Diti, I am the devoted Prahlad. Among the subduers, I am time. Among beasts, I am the lion. And among birds, I am Garuda. Purport. Diti and Aditi are two sisters. The sons of Diti are called Adityas, which we had before, remember? Or Adatyas, I am Vasu, I think it was. And the sons of Diti are called Daityas. All the Daityas are devotees. You know, I mean, like the vast majority of them. I don't know if there's any demonic Adityas. All the Adityas are devotees of the Lord. And all the Daityas are atheistic. Almost all. Although Prahlad was born in the family of the demons, of the Daityas, he was a great devotee from his childhood. Because of his devotional service and godly nature, he is considered to be a representative of Krishna. So Krishna doesn't say anywhere, you know, saying among all the demons, I am Hiranyakashipu or anything like that. No. He's Prahlad because Prahlad is a great devotee. There are many subduing principles, but time wears down all things in the material universe. Kala, Kalayatamaham. Of many animals, the lion is the most powerful and ferocious, and of the million varieties of birds, Garuda, the bearer of Lord Vishnu, is the greatest. Now concerning time, this will come up in the next chapter. When Krishna shows his most fearsome form to Arjuna, says, "Who are you?" He's trembling in fear by now, you know. Kalam, kalosmi loka chayakritpa vidho. I am time, all-devouring time. I've come to destroy everybody, you know. And soon after that, Arjuna says, "Please show me your forearm form again, please." And then Krishna says, happily I show you this original form. And he shows him the two-arm form. So there's a beautiful verse about this Kala. Let's see if I can remember the Sanskrit. This is a prayer from Uddhava. I remember this is a really nice prayer. So he says, Dashtam janam sampatitam bilesman kalahina chuddasukoru tarsham sambuddhadayanam kripaya bhavaga vachobira sincha mahanubhava. So Uddhava is taking the role of the conditioned soul, you know, and he's saying, Dashtam janam, this person, I, have been bitten by the snake of time, kalahina. I've fallen into the snake hole of this material world. A dangerous, dirty, not a very good place. Bile. Dashtam janam sampatitam, completely fallen. You know, the prefix sam intensifies. There's kirtan, and then there's sankirtan, right? There's a difference. Kirtan is mostly sitting, or whatever, but sankirtan is everybody dancing, many. So there's also sampatitam, mean totally fallen. I've totally fallen into the snake hole called the material world, and I'm being bitten by the snake of time. And yet, despite this impossible situation, Chuddasukoru Tarsham, I have Urutarsha, a great thirst for insignificant sense gratification. Chudra Sukha. You see? So in this situation, then you present, Samudharayanam, please, here's the sum again. Please completely lift me up out of here. Uddharayanam means deliver me. Samudharayanam kripayapa vargaya. Out of your mercy, and sprinkle upon me your words which give liberation. Apavarga, Samudharayanam kripayapa vargaya vachobir. Vachobir means words. Asincha, sprinkle these delivering words on me. Mahanabhava, O great Lord. This verse could precede every one of our readings of Bhagavad Gita. We're associating with Krishna now. We're listening to Krishna. We're non-different on that battlefield. Just as Dhritarashtra was hearing from Sanjay, I mean, assumedly Dhritarashtra was sitting in the palace back in Delhi somewhere, or maybe he was off the battlefield. That's for sure. And so he was hearing this Bhagavad Gita be spoken just as Sanjay was, by the power of Vedavyas, this distant hearing power. So this is how eager we should be to hear the words of Krishna. Uddhava Gita is also the words of Krishna, right? We realize how fortunate we are to drink this nectar which brings liberation, which is saving us. You know, from this knowledge we can be delivered from the thrall of the material world.
Prabhu, is Adityas also Devas? Adityas are
Yes.
devotees, are they
Yes.
Devas?
Yes.
Okay.
The most famous Deva, Aditya, is Vamana. Right? He was also a son of Aditi.
Yes, thank you. And you said Uddhav Gita is other Gita, like I mean, you can read I don't have it, but
Well, wait a
I've
minute.
heard it. But
Do you have a set of Bhagavatams?
yes,
It's in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto.
11th.
It's part
okay,
of the 11th canto.
Okay, thank you. That's Uddhav Gita.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's very wonderful. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Text 31, right? Yeah. Pavanak Pavatamasmi Rama Shastrabadhamaham Jashana Makadas Chasmi Throtasamasmi Janavi. Of purifiers I am the wind. Of the wielders of weapons I am Ram. Of fishes I am the shark. And of flowing rivers I am the Ganges. Purport: of all the aquatics, the shark is one of the biggest and is certainly the most dangerous to man. Thus the shark represents Krishna. Now there's a controversy about this verse. I might as well tell you. You will find out eventually. Rama Shastrabhadra. When we see the word Rama, of course we think Ramchandra. He was carrier of a weapon. But the commentators, Prabhupada, there was another sentence here that was taken off because Prabhupada didn't say it. It was added by the editor. That this Ram refers to Ramchandra. You know. Seemed to make sense, but it's not in the commentators and it's not in Prabhupada's purport. The Baladev Vijayabhushan, who was the commentator who Prabhupada relied on most thoroughly for his commentators here. If you notice at the very beginning, the book is all dedicated to Baladev Vijayabhushan. If you look at the very first page, he says that this Rama is Parashuram, the wielder of that axe, that famous axe. You know. So anyway, this is what we have. This is what Prabhupada actually said. But many devotees, otherwise you don't find Ram in the Gita, and you don't really find it much in the Mahabharata either, I don't think, which is kind of a puzzle, but there it is. Moving along. Sarganam adarantascha madhyam chaivaham arjuna adhyatma vidya vidyanam vadak prabhadatamaham. Of all creations I am the beginning and the end, and also the middle, O Arjuna. Of all sciences, I am the spiritual science of the self, and among logicians, I am the conclusive truth. Purport: among the created manifestations, the first is the creation of the total material elements. As explained before, the cosmic manifestation is created and conducted by Mahavishnu, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, and Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, and then again it is annihilated by Lord Shiva. Brahma is a secondary creator. All these agents of creation, maintenance, and annihilation are incarnations of the material qualities of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, he is the beginning, the middle, and the end of all creation. For advanced education, there are various kinds of books of knowledge, such as the 4 Vedas, their 6 supplements, the Vedanta Sutra, books of logic, books of religiosity, and the Puranas. So altogether, there are 14 divisions of books of education. Of these, the book which presents Adhyatma Vidya, spiritual knowledge, in particular the Vedanta Sutra, represents Krishna. Among logicians, there are different kinds of argument. Supporting one's argument with evidence that also supports the opposing side is called Jalpa. Merely trying to defeat one's opponent is called Vitanda. But the actual conclusion is called Vada. This conclusive truth is a representation of Krishna. So, Vada means, we have Mayavad and other kinds of Vad. And the Vedanta Sutra, Anta means end, Veda means knowledge. So these sutras are meant to embody the summit, the ultimate substance of all of the Vedic literature. So it's they're very important, and all of the different sampradayas have their own commentary in the Vedanta Sutra. Now, there's a history there also, because when Lord Chaitanya was on the planet, he didn't write a commentary to the Vedanta Sutra, nor did he commission his main writers, such as Rupa Sanatan and the others, to write one. And so, no, though they didn't exist. But later on, during the time of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Baladev Vijayabhushan, there grew up a controversy, because the Mahants in Jaipur, they were criticizing the Gaudiyas because we had no commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So they were influential. They were in charge of the Govinda temple, like that, Govindaji temple. So the Gaudiyas, they wanted Vishwanath. He was the leading scholar at the time. Very erudite. He'd written so many commentaries already, but he was getting a little elderly. So his foremost disciple there, Baladev Vijayabhushan, he took on the challenge, and he went to Jaipur, and he prayed to Govinda, I think 3 days, right? Wasn't it? It was more than 1 day, to please inspire me, please empower me to write this commentary. And if I'm not mistaken, the garland fell down or something like that. He got the sign that he was empowered. And so he named it Govinda Bhashya, that he felt that Govinda was writing this through him. As all the great writers, Prabhupada said the same thing about his books. So it's the Gaudiya Vaishnava does have a commentary now, but basically we regard the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Purana, as the really most important commentary, a primary commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. It's even mentioned in some Puranas. No, it's mentioned in the Bhagavatam itself. Artanam Brahmasutranam. Artha means the meaning. The Bhagavatam gives the meaning for the Brahma Sutras, which is another name for the Vedanta Sutras. So, and it famously, this is, again, when you get into the Sanskrit, there's so much, wonderful revelation there. So, famously, the first sutra is Tato Brahma Jigyasa, and the second sutra is Janma Yasya Yataha. So really, they're answering a big question there. What is this Brahman? Have human beings are meant to inquire into the absolute truth, the ultimate reality, not to mess around in these relative things and just waste human life and take birth again. So, having come to this human form of life, one should inquire into Brahman. We have that also in the second chapter, very second chapter of the first canto. What is it? Kamasinendriya priti labo jivata yavata jivasa tattva jigyasa. Narto yashchaya karmavi. This tattva jigyasa is equivalent to a tattva brahma jigyasa. This curiousness, inquisitiveness. So the second sutra defines what Brahman is in a few syllables. Janmad yasya yataha. That's why every syllable counts. So you have Janma, everyone knows what that is, like Janmashtami, right? Birth. So that's creation. Adi is etc. So after creation, everything material, right, goes through creation. Then it stays for some time. That's part of the Adi. And then it's destroyed. That's the other Adi. So birth, maintenance, and destruction. And for living things, you get birth, growth, maintenance, byproducts, deterioration, destruction. You get 6 changes like that. So, what's the very, very, very first verse of the Bhagavatam? Janmad yasya yata. It begins with the same words. Janma, but it goes on. Janmad yasya yaton vayad. It describes Vasudev. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. That's the invocation. So Vasudev is another name for Krishna, is the source of everything that exists, and the maintainer and destroyer. And it goes on. Yes, Ton Vayad, he knows everything directly and indirectly. He's Swarat, independently knowledgeable. And he inspired Brahma. He initiated him with knowledge in his heart. Tene Brahma. Brahma without the long A. I'm telling you, these diacritics are important. Without the long A, that's a word for Vedic knowledge. With the long A at the end, that's a name for Brahma. Quite a difference. So Tene Brahma Vradaya Adikavaye. The Adikavaye, that's Brahma. He's the original wise man, the original intelligent person. Kavi is a poet or a wise man. In the heart. He was inspired in the heart. And then it goes on to describe in detail. That verse, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati spoke on it for several months. just analyzing that one first verse. But that shows, and it ends with the word Dhimahi, which is also indicative of the Brahma Sutras and the Gayatri, like that. So that's another thing, that it explains Gayatri, expands the Gayatri mantra. Okay, Sarganam Adir Antascha Madhyam Chaiva Marjan. Okay, moving on. Aksharanam Akarosmi Dvandva Samasikasya Cha Ahame Vakshaya Kalo Dataham Vishyato Mukha. Now, before I forget, this is the second time he's saying his Kala time, right? We had Kala Kaliyatamaham. Now we have actually Kala. Of letters I am the letter A, and among compound words I am the dual compound. I am also inexhaustible time. And of creators I am Brahma. Brahma. Purport, Akara, the first letter of the Sanskrit alphabet, is the beginning of the Vedic literature. Without Akara, nothing can be sounded. Therefore it is the beginning of sound. In Sanskrit there are also many compound words, of which the dual word, like Rama Krishna, is called Dvandva. In this compound, the words Rama and Krishna have the same form, and therefore the compound is called dual. Among all kinds of killers, time is the ultimate, because time kills everything. What does it say? Okay. Yeah. Time kills everything. Time is the representative of Krishna, because it is in due course of time there will be a great fire and everything will be annihilated. Okay. Among the living entities who are creators, Brahma, who has 4 heads, is the chief. Therefore he is a representative of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Now the next one is a substantial purport here, and the very first line is the one that Prabhupada would always quote. So if you're going to memorize any verses from here, except for the 4 essential ones, those you have to know. But here, this Mrityu Sarvaharas Chaham. Mrityu Sarvaharas Chaham Udbhavas Chabhavishyatam Kirti Sri Vakchanarinam Smitir Medha Dhutichama. I am all-devouring death, and I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. Now, before I go on with the purport, this purport has also underwent some serious change. This there's a passage in the 3rd canto, I think it is, where certain qualities that are manifest at the creation are capitalized. They're personified. When Prabhupada says among women here, these are actually goddesses. In other words, Vak, right? Vak is mentioned here. Vak is Saraswati, the goddess of speech. There's a goddess who represents fame and fortune and all these different goddesses. But it is misunderstood that these qualities are all there among women. In other words, women can be famous, they can have fortune, and find it. Anyway, purport. As soon as a man is born, he dies at every moment. Thus death is devouring every living entity at every moment, but the last stroke is called death itself. That death is Krishna. As for future development, all living entities undergo 6 basic changes. I just went through these. They are born, they grow, they remain for some time, they reproduce, they dwindle, and finally they vanish. Of these changes, the first is deliverance from the womb, and that is Krishna. The first generation is the beginning of all future activities. Okay. The 7 opulences listed, fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience, are considered feminine. If a person possesses all of them or some of them, he becomes glorious. If a man is famous as a righteous man, that makes him glorious. Sanskrit is a perfect language and is therefore very glorious. If after studying one can remember a subject matter, he is gifted with a good memory or smriti, and the ability not only to read many books on different subject matters, but to understand them and apply them when necessary is intelligence, medha, another opulence. The ability to overcome unsteadiness is called firmness or steadfastness, driti. And when one is fully qualified, yet is humble and gentle, and when one is able to keep his balance both in sorrow and in the ecstasy of joy, he has the opulence called patience or Chama. So if you compare the old Macmillan to this one, you'll see there's a lot of adjustments that were made based on what Prabhupada said and what it means. All right, one more. Brihat samatata samnam Gayatri chandasamaham Matana margashirshoham Ritunang kusamakaraha. Of the hymns in the Samaveda, I am the Brihat Sama, and of poetry, I am the Gayatri. Of months, I am Margashirsha, November, December. And of seasons, I am flower-bearing spring. Purport: It has already been explained by the Lord that amongst all the Vedas, he is the Samaveda. The Samaveda is rich with beautiful songs played by the various demigods. One of the songs is called the Brihat Sama, which has an exquisite melody and is sung at midnight. In Sanskrit, there are definite rules that regulate poetry. Rhyme and meter are not written whimsically, as in much modern poetry. Amongst the regulated poetry, the Gayatri mantra, which is chanted by the duly qualified Brahmins, is the most prominent. The Gayatri mantra is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because the Gayatri mantra is especially meant for God realization, it represents the Supreme Lord. This mantra is meant for spiritually advanced people, and when one attains success in chanting it, he can enter into the transcendental position of the Lord. One must first acquire the qualities of the perfectly situated person, the qualities of goodness, according to the laws of material nature, in order to chant the Gayatri mantra. The Gayatri mantra is very important in Vedic civilization and is considered to be the sound incarnation of Brahman. Brahma is its initiator, and that is passed down from him in disciplic succession. The month of November-December is considered the best of all months because in India, grains are collected from the fields at this time, and the people become very happy. Of course, spring is a season universally liked because it is neither too hot nor too cold, and the flowers and trees blossom and flourish. In spring there are also many ceremonies commemorating Krishna's pastimes. Therefore, this is considered to be the most joyful of all seasons, and it is the representative of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. It's interesting that he mentions the Gayatri, because from what, the writings of the Goswamis, and some of the writings of Bilvamangal Thakur, and some of the others like Prabodhananda Saraswati, are just so exquisite. The Sanskrit is so amazing. Like Bilvamangal, Lord Chaitanya loved to hear these verses. Madodam madodam vapadasya vibho madodam madodam vadanam madodam madogandhi madusmita metadoho madodam 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 madodam. And then I put it into my English doggerel. It has nothing to do with dogs, but doggerel means crude poetry. Sweet, sweet is my dear Lord's form, sweet is still his face so fair, but his honey-scented gentle smile is sweet beyond compare. And I try to, follow this. Prabhupada also wrote poetry. If you read some of the Bhagavad in some of his old BTGs, he poeticizes one song, I forget, Gauranga Bolita Habe, I think, something like that, Very nice. And he appreciated it. So I always try to observe that, meter and rhyme, which is kind of thought to be kind of clunky these days, but I think it's it adds to the attractiveness of it. So when you think there's a verse describing the spiritual world in the Brahma Samhita, near the end, it's not one of the Govinda prayers, but it says, Shriya Kanta Kanta Padamaparusha Kalpataravo Dhruma Bhumish Chinda Managanamahi Toyamamratam Kataganam Natyam Gamanam Apivangshi Priyasaki Chadanandam Joti Padamapita Svajamapicha. So it says in that Goloka Vrindavan, all of Krishna's lovers are goddesses of fortune, Shriya Kanta, and the one lover of them is the Padma Purusha, the Supreme Person Krishna. Kalpatadava druma. All the trees are desire trees. You can get as many fruits of as many kinds, perfectly ripe, organically grown, from any tree that you want. Unlike here, where you have to wait, and there's this one tree, and you have to spray it, and you have to pay a fortune if you go to, Trader Joe's. No, you just go to the trees. They're growing everywhere. They want to give their fruit. So, Bhumi's Chintamani. The land is not ordinary land. It's Chintamani gems. Very spiritual gems. Toyam Amatam. The water is all nectar. No water pollution. No air pollution. There's no talking there. Sorry. It's all singing. Kataganam. No walking, just dancing. And one can always hear the dear friend, Krishna's dear friend, the flute in the background playing. And everything is glowing with this Chidananda potency. Potency. I mean, this bliss which you can taste. Asvadam. Then the next verse talks about the Surabhi cows flooding the land. Oh, I'm sorry, it's getting late. And not a second passes away. It's the eternal present there. There's no getting old, none of that, All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Haribol.